This is a press from the Boma company, but whenever you have to repair or open this kind of press, it becomes a very big challenge. And after opening it, reassembling and fitting it back together is also a big challenge. So, to open this press, it's very important to have a good screwdriver set with you. Let me show you why the screws used on this press usually don't have strong or deep threads. That's why it's important to use a proper, good quality screwdriver for this job. So now I'll open the screw, and there, it's successfully opened. And one more thing, whenever you remove a screw from a specific spot, try to put it back in the exact same place. Why that's important, I'll explain later in the video. And make sure to keep all the screws safely in a small box. Because when you reassemble the press later, you shouldn't use any extra screws. You'll need to use the same ones that came with this press. Now we've removed the screw from here, and the first thing we need to do is take off the back cover of the press. Almost all automatic irons are opened from the back cover first. Now the way to open it is like this. Look down here. There are locking tabs. There's one lock here and another one over there. You can see the hole here is a little wide. The other lock's hole is the same, so you have to push them very gently. Now to push these locks, we'll use the proper tools. That makes the job much easier. So look, grab any thin scraper and we'll use it to press these locks. Now watch, I've pushed it slightly outward, so I'll push the other side outward as well. You can see there's a hole here. Now, I'll open it and show you what this part is. Look, as I opened it, you can see there's a groove made here. See this? There's a proper groove formed at this spot. Now, don't push it from the bottom. If you do, the cover will break. That's why you should always push it gently from the top towards the back. Because there's also a lock on the top, so you just need to lift it slightly off the lock and then push it gently. My son had already tried to open this press and ended up damaging a few spots. So I told him to stop working on it. I'll do it myself so I can open it properly. Now that we've opened the cover, you can see 2 screws at these 2 points. Like this, if we look down here, we can now see 2 more screws that have become visible. But that's not enough yet. We still have more parts left to open. Now, move the cover toward the back and keep it safely aside. This will prevent it from breaking or getting damaged in any way. First of all, we need to open these 2 steam control functions here and look to adjust the steam level. There's a small lever installed here. We'll start opening it from this point. So this can be opened in 2 ways, either by removing these push buttons from here. Similarly, we can start by opening this lever first. So first, I'll open the lever from this point. It's actually quite easy to remove. Now I'm gently pressing it upward with the scraper. And look, it's come out. Now I'll take it out completely and keep it safely in the box. Now we can see a screw inside the head, but we won't open that yet. First, we'll remove these push buttons. So there are 2 ways to open the push button if you want to do it safely. There's a proper way to do that. But if you just want to get it open quickly, there's a rough way to do that too. If you just want to get it open quickly, you can insert the scraper from any side and give it a slight push. See, the scraper slides inside, and when you push upward, the button pops out. But this method is incorrect. You can see 2 small holes here. There are locks right underneath them. When I press the push button, you can see the locks drop down underneath both push buttons. Now we'll need to push both of these locks. Once you press them, the push buttons will come out easily. Now I'll push it, being careful not to break the lock. See, I press it lightly, and it comes out smoothly. Now removing the second push button is easy for us. I pressed this lock, and look, it popped out smoothly. Now both push buttons have come out. I'll keep them safely in the box. So now 1 screw has become visible at the top, and just like that, another screw is also visible near the lever that I showed you earlier. Now I'll pull this cover outward. There are 2 holders on the sides here. I'll press them gently, and look, they've come out. This part is actually the water filling section of the press. As I mentioned earlier, my son had already worked on this press, and he slightly damaged this area, but then I told him to stop, and now I'll show you exactly how and where he caused the damage. So look here, there's a lock fitted, and one of the pins on this side was broken by my son. But it's not a big issue since it was a normal lock, so I'll just remove it now. So now a screw has become visible here as well. Let's go ahead and open all these screws and make sure you remember exactly where each screw came from. Now I'll open the screw near the lever as well. After removing all the screws, the first part we'll open is the lever. We'll start by taking off the plastic cover that's fitted on top of it. So I'll push it slightly and look, it came out. Now we have access to all these points. I'll give it a slight push and look, it opened. But here a small mistake happened. There are two holes, one on this side and one on the other, and the locks were broken by my son. From this we learned that we must work very carefully at this point. But its breaking didn't make much difference because there is a base on the back. At that point on the back, it can be tightened easily. Now I've opened this cover, but remember there's a pin on top that goes to the water steam system. And the second important thing to remember is the mechanism system here. You must note carefully how it's fitted because I'll explain this part later during reassembly. It's very important to remember if you have a different model of press and you don't keep this in mind, you might get stuck later. Now to open this white cover, there are two screws here. Let's go ahead and remove them. To open this same cover, there's another screw located here as well, so I'll remove this one too. Now the cover has been completely opened, you can carefully remove it and place it aside safely. The light that's installed here, we'll remove that as well. I'll gently pull it out from here, and there it's out. Now the cover is completely separated. Now to open this red cover, there are two screws attached here. Let's go ahead and open them. There are two more screws installed here as well. We'll remove the wire from here to reduce some of the tension. Look, the wire has been detached. These are the steam push buttons. We'll remove them from here. I'll push them upward and they'll pop out easily. In the same way, we'll remove the second one too. And there, it's out. Now, we'll keep it safely aside. Now, our next task is to open this knob. But you have to be very careful while doing this because there's a spring underneath it. So to open it safely, we'll again use the scraper. Now I insert the scraper into it and press slightly upward and look, it popped out. And the part we loosened with it, see here, there's a spring. On top of this spring is the mechanism that operates the knob. And look here, there's a gear installed inside the knob. If your knob is in perfect condition, you'll hear a soft clicking sound when you turn it. So now I'll remove this spring, its mechanism has become loose. That's why, whenever you open it, make sure to do it very carefully. After removing the knob, we'll open these two screws. Once they're out, our work will become easier. So I'll grab the screwdriver now. Now this upper cover is actually the water box, where the water is stored. I'll separate it from the rest of the unit now. And here, you need to be very careful with this rubber part. First, remove it gently. I'll push it upward slightly, and it will come out smoothly. Now the upper cover has also been removed. Now let's come to its main fault. Here it is. The bottom iron plate, which is the most important part of this entire process. Because the screws here are clearly visible, here's the first screw, the second one, and the third one. So now I'll go ahead and open them. All three screws are opened, and now we've reached the important part. I'll lift it upward, and the cover has come off. And along with that, look at all this dirt. There's a lot of dust buildup inside. This kind of heavy dust can also cause problems. So the first thing I'll do is clean it thoroughly. Now I'll carefully lift this rubber piece. We'll reinstall it later in the exact same way, making sure it's properly seated. All right, let's start cleaning it now. You have to be very careful with these holes. Make sure no dirt goes inside them. Water flows through these holes, and that's how the entire steam function works. So now, first of all, let's check the main fault to see why that function wasn't working properly. Look, this is the thermostat of the press, and on top of it is the knob. And down here is its bimetal strip. This part is thermostatic. It bends and straightens when heated, allowing the thermostat to control the temperature automatically. So there's a lot of dirt accumulated here. That buildup can also cause malfunction or improper heating. But we need to check the thermal fuse installed here to see whether it's working properly or not. If the thermal fuse is fine, then the remaining issue is likely caused by the dirt and dust. To check this thermal fuse, we'll use a multimeter. Set the multimeter to continuity mode. Now I've tested it and it's working perfectly fine. One of the wires goes into the thermal fuse, which is connected directly to the main line. So I'll attach one probe of the multimeter to that point. and we'll attach the other probe to the heating element. Now, let's check the thermal fuse. So right now, there's no reading on the multimeter. That means there's no continuity in the thermal fuse. That means the thermal fuse here is faulty. So I'll go ahead and remove it. It's been removed now. I'll test it again to confirm its condition. Now I'm checking it again in continuity mode, and as you can see, there's still no continuity at all. That confirms the thermal fuse is completely damaged. Look here, its rating is 240 degrees Celsius. It's a 250 volt, 10 ampere thermal fuse, so I'm going to cut it out. I'll also cut it from the other side. Now, since the thermal fuse is faulty, that means the thermostat itself is perfectly fine. There's no issue with it. So I'll clean everything properly now, and I'll be very careful with these wires while doing it. Cleaning is a must. You can clean it in different ways. It was extremely dirty, but you can also use a blower to remove all the dust. Now it's quite clean, and we'll wait for the new thermal fuse to arrive before continuing the repair. Now I have this new thermal fuse. It's rated at 172 degrees Celsius, 10 amps, and 250 volts. I couldn't find one with a higher temperature rating, so I'll have to use this one. Now I'm going to connect it to these wires. To install it here, I'll need a connector. I'll show you where I got this connector from. It's a little cut or damaged, but I'll explain that too. First, I'll show you how to attach it. This connector will work fine here, because if I try to solder it, the joint won't hold. It will break off when it heats up. So let's cut the wire from here and remove the insulation. Now I've placed the connector into the crimping tool, and I'll press it lightly. It's now securely held in place. I've prepared the connections now. They're quite strong and secure. This won't come off easily anymore. In the same way, I'll complete the other side as well. I'll cut off this old connector, strip the wire, and then twist it into a round shape. Twisting the wire like this increases its strength. You should have thimbles like this one with you. Now I'm cutting this thimble from here. It's been cut. The back side of the thimble remains. The front part will be discarded. The back part is the one we'll use. I'll trim this part of the thimble. Now we've got the shape we needed. I've already shown you the rest of the procedure, so I'll just finish the connection now. And this second connection is also complete. Any extra wire will be cut off from the connector. And that's it. The work is done. Now I'll properly attach the sleeve over it. It was originally placed right here. After that, I'll bend the wire neatly at this point to secure it in position. The thermal fuse has now been installed here. This wire will be bent at this point. With that, this job is complete. Now I'll start the fitting process for it. I'll attach one multimeter probe here and the other probe here. Now the continuity sound is coming properly, which means the thermal fuse is perfectly fine. Here there is a bimetal strip installed. When it gets heated, it bends. Let me show you. This is the bimetal strip, and when we rotate the thermostat, you'll see the strip move upward. It's now disconnected. See, this contact point is separated. I think it's a bit damaged or worn out, so I'll clean it slightly. The contact points have come too close to each other, which could cause the iron to overheat. That's why I'll clean and adjust these points a little. By inserting the emery paper between the contact points, we can clean both sides thoroughly. Now I'll flip the emery paper so the other side also gets cleaned properly. I've inserted the emery paper again, and now I'm cleaning the opposite contact point as well. It's looking much better now, and there's now a small gap between the contacts. Now I'll slowly rotate the thermostat. Earlier, this part had slightly melted, so now I'll tighten it. See, the contact points are touching. When I turn it upward, the points separate. This is how the thermostat works. So this bimetal strip works in such a way that when one part of it heats up, it bends upward, and because of that movement, a disconnection occurs, just like you can see happening here. Now we'll close it properly. Everything has been set in its place. I'll now install this rubber seal here and make sure it's fitted tightly so that no water leaks from this area. Otherwise, steam could escape from here. Now it's installed properly. Here, there are 3 rubber seals, 1, 2, and 3. Each of them fits into a separate hole. One sits in this hole, the second in this one, and the third in this hole. So now we'll place them back in their proper positions. Now it's time for the screws. Each screw must be placed exactly back in the position it was removed from. And there's a reason for that. Let me explain. This is a threaded screw, and if you put it in the wrong spot, it won't fit or hold properly. Each screw has a different size and thread type. This one is different, and so is this one. There's also a small screw, so in total there are 4 types of screws used here. If you mix them up, some parts may become too tight and break, while if a long screw is put into a short hole, it could crack the area, and if a short screw goes into a larger hole, it won't tighten properly. That's why I said you must keep track of each screw's position carefully. Now I've tightened all 3 screws properly and everything is perfectly secured. Let's also check the wires to make sure none of them are left behind or stuck at the back. Yes, everything looks good and in place. Now I'll install the water box. I'm fitting it properly into its place. It has a fixed position, so if aligned correctly, nothing will go wrong and it'll sit perfectly in place. Look, there was a small mistake we made earlier. That's why it wasn't fitting properly. So I'll first position it correctly here, make sure it's aligned, and now as I set it in place, it fits perfectly. See, it's now fitted perfectly. Even a small mistake can mess up your work. So always make sure every part you removed is reinstalled exactly in its original position. I've tightened both front screws already. Now I'll tighten the 2 screws at the back as well. Now we'll tighten the other side. And that's done. After that, I'll fit the upper cover back on. Make sure to clean all the parts as you go. I've already cleaned them thoroughly, so I won't need to do it again. Both parts are now completely done. I've also placed this part back in its position it was on the left side. This is the front spray section. See these small holes here? They're for the front steam spray. So I'll fit it here and it'll be positioned right at the front. Now I'll place the knob back on top. It's very easy to install. As you can see, its shape ensures it can't be fitted incorrectly. Just align it properly, find its exact position, and press it gently. It will sit perfectly in place. See, I pressed it down and it's perfectly fitted in its place. When I turned it fully, I heard a soft tick sound that means the internal contact point has disengaged correctly, just as it should. That means the thermostat is now properly seated in its position. It also means we can test it even without electricity. From this point onward, the remaining work will be much easier. So now we align these points as I mentioned earlier. This is where the front spray fits. It sits right here at the front, and this upper cover goes on top of it. This is the part that sprays water onto the clothes. And notice, every single screw has its own specific function and placement. If you mix them up or install them in the wrong spot, it'll cause alignment issues. That's why I kept reminding you to remember where each screw came from. There's still one more thing left to do, so I'll open it again. The task is to install the light properly. I'll carefully fit the light back into its place to make sure it's properly secured and connected. We'll now seat the light properly in its place. After that, we'll fit the cover on top, but make sure it's aligned perfectly, because if the position isn't correct, it won't fit properly. Let me show you. See here, there's a specific space or slot, and notice this section is longer in shape. That's exactly how it needs to align for a perfect fit. Now we need to slide it backward before fitting it, just like this. Lower it slightly, then push it toward the back. Now I've inserted it into its slot, and there, it's perfectly fitted in place. Now we need to check whether it can move freely on both sides. If we had started it in the wrong position, it wouldn't have worked correctly and could have jammed. But as you can see now, it's moving smoothly, which means it's properly aligned and functioning just right. And this rubber part here is very important. It must be seated properly in its place. If for any reason this rubber isn't installed here, it can cause serious issues later. Now we'll install the screw, and at this point, a longer screw is required. So I'll go ahead and tighten the long screw here. This screw is actually short, so I'm removing it again because it's not tightening properly. See, this is why I mentioned earlier that you should always remember exactly where each screw came from. Every screw has a specific position and length for a reason. A longer screw goes here, so I've used this one instead. And look, it fits perfectly. It's tightened properly and holding firmly in place. I've reattached the logical parts now. Now I'm placing the upper part back on. It fits in very smoothly. And look, it's perfectly seated in its proper position. There's a screw at the top. We'll tighten that too. But as you can see, this one is a bit too long, so I'll replace it with a slightly shorter screw for a proper and secure fit. This screw fits perfectly. See, its size is just right. The locks on both sides have also aligned properly. Now it's time to work on the radius part of the press. Look here, there are 2 marks made on it. And besides that, you can see there are 2 locks on this side and 1 lock on the other side. So we'll keep these alignment points in mind carefully while working on it. Now I've moved one of its locks toward the front and properly seated it in its position. When I gently push it, it fits right into place. And now I can easily move it up and down without any issue. Now I'm installing the push buttons. It's a very simple process. Just place each push button on its proper slot and press it gently, like this, and it will fit perfectly into its position. Now installing the second one is even easier. Just align it properly with its slot, but be careful not to break the locks. If they snap, it can cause problems later. So I'll gently press this push button, and look, it's installed perfectly too. Our iron is almost completely assembled now. I'll go ahead and fit this cover back on. Now I'm securing the wire here, because if it isn't held properly, there's a chance it could break or get damaged. Look, the wires are now tightly and safely fixed in place. Now let's attach its cover carefully. This entire part fits in with a push. Just press it inward and everything will align perfectly. But before that, make sure all the wires are properly arranged inside. See, the cover is now perfectly seated in its place. Now I'm tightening the final screw of the press, and there, it's secured perfectly. So we've successfully reassembled the press completely. Now let's test it. First, I'll turn the thermostat fully off and then switch on the electricity. After that, I'll slowly start adjusting the thermostat. And look, the light has turned on and the press is heating up perfectly. Now I'll switch it off again. Our press is now completely repaired and working properly with no issues remaining at all. When I press it a little more, the press turns on again. See, it's working perfectly fine now. And look, it's turned off again. That means our press is working perfectly and has been completely repaired.